This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Good evening, it's 1 minute past 5 o'clock. Thank you so much for staying with Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name is Camry Apollo. I'm a Nigerian and my tribe comes second. I'll say that again. My name is Camry Apollo. I'm a Nigerian and my tribe comes second. Now, how many of us can say this? And do we understand what it means? Here's another question. Can reciting the national pledge right after the national anthem, can doing this build a better Nigeria? Well, President Tinubu seems to think it can. Now, yesterday, the president directed that the national pledge must be recited after the national anthem at every official and public engagement. President Tinubu, he was speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony of a housing project in Abuja. Now, during the event, President Tinubu said he believes it's time to relaunch our national pledge. Got lots of people thinking, raised eyebrows, what is Baba going on about? Well, the president said that the relaunch of the national pledge is about being committed to the values, the greatness, and the hope of our country. He says it is our pledge to Nigeria, our country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria with all our strength. That's what the president said. He says by doing this, that is President Tinubu, he says by doing this, it will ensure absolute respect for the national symbols. It will strengthen allegiance and fidelity to the country, as well as preserve Nigeria's ethos and defining character. So what does it mean to be Nigerian? What makes a country a country? You know, are these words, reciting the pledge, are these words enough to inspire patriotism in Nigeria, both leaders and followers? Well, joining me to address these questions on the big story this evening is Mr. David Akoji. He is the National Orientation Agency's Director of Special Duties and State Operations. Mr. Akoji, good evening and welcome to the big story.
It's a pleasure to join you today, Camry. I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. So let's try and find answers to some of the questions I've asked. The president's given a directive that the national pledge be recited right after the national anthem at public functions and events. So my first question, I guess, to you is, can reciting the national pledge, the way the president has said, can that build a more patriotic country, a more patriotic citizenry? Just reciting those words? How does that work?
Well, the answer to that straight up, Camry, is that it takes reciting that national pledge, understanding the meaning and content of the words in the pledge, and agreeing with them, to cause the change that is required. But there is a question that you asked in the intro, Camry, that I find very interesting, and I think we should not gloss over. You asked the question, who is a Nigerian?
Yes.
Now, if you ask that question to 100 people, you're likely to get 100 different answers. But if you ask the same question to an American, who is an American? And you ask that to 10 different Americans, they would be able to answer in ways that project a similar picture of who an American is. So this is what is important. We need to agree on what a Nigerian represents beyond our tribe, beyond our religion, beyond our political preferences, and beyond all of those fault lines that divide us. There has to be a consensus around who a Nigerian is, so that going forward, when you ask 100 people, they would be telling you the same thing. That is the way that we can now build a national image of repute for the Nigerian that can be respected across the world. It's a good thing that the president decided to emphasize this, because the pledge actually is a statement of commitment. And most Nigerians ignore it. We just sing the national anthem and then we are done with it. It's not supposed to be so. The pledge is a commitment, is a promise to our nation. And Nigerians need to begin to understand it like that. I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest. If you see those words in the beginning lines, they are quite significant. Faithful, not emphasize this is enough. It is something that, so that we carry it to whatever space that we are operating in, up until it becomes part of our life, and we begin to live it out.
Yes.
You know? So even at official function, when they finish discussions and all of that, they should make that commitment that is in the pledge. I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, to be loyal, to be honest, my strength. You see the heavy words of commitment that are in the pledge. So it should not be demonized, it should not be ignored. You know, we should get people to selectively and reflecting on each word that is contained in that pledge. So this is what the president is emphasizing. And I was saying to you that the question that you asked is relevant. Who is a Nigerian? That question is very, very significant. You know, and we must get to a point in this country where we all answer that question with the same words. It means we have the same understanding. You know, if you go to countries that are succeeding, like the US, for instance, the American is identified courage, you know, that they can do spirit. So wherever you see an American,
yes,
you sense power around that American described. Now, this is what the American is about. Black nation on earth, you know? That's the position of strength. Yes, where we want to be, we have not accomplished as much as we have the potential to accomplish, you know? But there's a sense in which every citizen of this country should feel a commitment to that journey that will take us to where we want to be.
Okay,
So
Mr. Koji, pardon the interruption.
And agree.
Yes, pardon the interruption, Mr. Koji. Now, I want to take you back a little bit to when you were talking about the words, understanding the pledge and so on. So the question is, you know, saying those words. Okay, Mr. Koji, welcome back. You can hear me?
I got knocked out. Let me see if I can come back again.
Oh, no, stay on the phone. No, let's stay on this line because I think the connection for the Zoom, there's a problem. So let's just stay on this line. So I was saying, the question I was going to ask is, you know, you talked about the pledge, uttering the words and understanding them, which brings me to one aspect of nationhood and nation building. Because I believe even in the Constitution, there's a part of it somewhere in Chapter 2, I believe, that talks about national values, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But leadership has a role to play. Followership has a role to play. This is what I understand. Now, when it comes to uttering the words to be, for example, faithful, loyal, and honest, we can do better. This is the general consensus among the public, especially from our leading elite. Is that a fair statement in your opinion?
It's absolutely fair. We have that understanding here at the National Orientation Agency. And that is why very soon the president would be unveiling an overarching project which we are coming up with, which is called the National Lifestyle Charter, the National Values Charter.
Okay.
Now, this National Values Charter, it elucidates 7 commitments that the Nigerian nation, irrespective of which political party is in power at any point in time, the Nigerian government owes its citizens. You know, 7 that we have identified, 7 commitments. In return to which the citizens themselves will also owe the Nigerian nation 7 commitments. And I can just list them out very quickly. Yes. The first one from the side of the government is equality. The government must be able to establish a sense of equality before the law, you know, for every citizen, so that people don't feel oppressed or sidelined on the basis of where they come from, the religion they subscribe to, or the political party they belong. There's a sense in which everyone must be treated fairly and equally by the government. That's one expectation from the government among the 7 promises. Then democracy. With all the challenges that we see, democracy still remains the best form of government, where the people have a say in who comes out to lead them, and where they can reevaluate that decision they have made about who comes out to rule them, to lead them, after every 4 years. Yes. So the government must protect and guarantee democracy. Then there's also entrepreneurship and employment. We believe that the government should provide an enabling environment for entrepreneurs to thrive, to start a business, to grow that business to maturity, and to pass that business from generation to generation to generation, as happens in other countries of the world. You understand what I'm saying, Cameron?
Yes, I'm following you. Yes.
Then we say if entrepreneurship thrives, then employment will be created. So that the challenge of unemployment, which is driving our youth to social vices, that is impeding national development, can also be catered for. Then the next one is peace and security. We believe that government should guarantee peace and security for its citizens. That is among the very focal responsibilities of government, even in our constitution. Government exists for the protection of lives and property and peace, of the people.
Yes.
So this also is a promise that we're saying government must make to its citizens. Then the other one is inclusivity, across the lines of gender, across the lines of religion, and all those other lines that have kept people out of what's going on before. We're saying that government should be inclusive. And inclusivity is a core component of the concept of good governance. So we're saying that government must guarantee inclusivity. Then freedom and justice. People must be free to express themselves. People must be free to move from one part of the country to another, to establish themselves in any part of the country as guaranteed by the Constitution. And government must make deliberate efforts to ensure that this practically on ground is guaranteed. And that where people go against the law, that justice will prevail, irrespective of their position in society.
Okay.
The 7th aspect of the promise from the government, the commitment that we're saying, is that there must be meritocracy. This situation today where you must know somebody to get somewhere or to get something.
Yes.
Government must put in place mechanisms to ensure that that is no longer the order of the day. That once you have merited something, you get it naturally, as happens in other developed and civilized climes. The present situation where somebody who has first class will be running from pillar to post, and somebody who has a past degree because he knows somebody who knows somebody, gets selected, that is not going to be helpful for us as we move forward as a country. So we're saying that government should be conscious of this also, and citizens should be able to hold government responsible for these 7 commitment areas that I have listed out to you.
Okay.
So you see that we agree with you. Then on the part of the citizen, we're saying that the citizen should also be disciplined. All the issues that you have around corruption, around disobedience to law, around kidnapping, around, all these other unwholesome crimes and misdeeds that's being committed by citizens, is a product of lack of discipline. We're saying that our citizens should be known for the fact that they respect the law, that they are orderly and they are to the issues of fundamental growth and development. They are not lawless,
Yes.
and that if they are in corporate organizations, they adhere to the rules of that corporate environment. And so we're saying Nigerians owe a duty to be disciplined. So anywhere you find a Nigerian around the world, and you say, who is a Nigerian? They say the Nigerian is the most disciplined one among that crowd of people from different parts of the world. So this is the character trait we're trying to define for the Nigerian. A duty of care. We come from cultures. Every culture in our country emphasizes care for immediate family, care for extended family, care for neighbor. You know,
yes.
We are not detached from what is going on around us, even when it's happening to other people. So the Nigerian must be that person that shows that duty of care. You know, tolerance and respect. That we tolerate each other's religion, that we respect each other's religion, we respect each other's tribe, you know, that's preferences. So we're saying that the Nigerians should be known by the fact that the person that is tolerant and respectful. Respect is a part of our culture. Whether you are Igbo, Yoruba, Idoma, no matter which tribe you come from, you know, respect is emphasized as part of our culture across the country.
Yes.
Then leadership and patriotism. You know, you see what we're doing in AFCON. The Nigerian team is showing leadership. And we expect it of them. You know, wherever the Nigerian is among the committee of Africans, you find that the Nigerian stands out. He shows leadership. So when you say who is a Nigerian, we say he is that person that is showing leadership among that crowd. He is that person that is patriotic and loving his nation so much that he becomes emotional and falls down and almost dies when his country is not winning in any competition.
We actually had some people die, you know, watching the match, sadly. So, well,
so that's the point I'm making.
Okay. I'm not sure about the humor, Mr. Okoje, but go ahead.
Yeah, so you see, transparency is also what we expect from citizens, accountability and integrity. Because you see, Camry, it is us citizens that grow up to a position where we now enter the position of leadership.
Yes.
Our leaders are not drawn from other countries. They are Nigerians. And they were first followers before they became leaders at some point in time. So if already they have imbibed the culture of transparency, accountability, and integrity, then when they get to positions of trust, national positions of responsibility, conscience will lead them to be transparent, to be accountable, and to show integrity. You know, family values. You know, people are raised by families.
Oh, yes.
And families emphasize their values, no matter what tribe or religion. Every religion has its values, tribes have their values, and so on. And these values are passed from generation to generation. They are discussed in families, you know. So we're saying that this also should form the character of the person. And that the Nigerian is the person who also cares for the environment, environmental awareness. The Nigerian is a person who has dignity of labor. He's proud, even as a bricklayer. He's proud as a cobbler and does his job for distinction to stand him out.
Yes.
He's proud as a musician, as a sportsman. You know, he has dignity in whatever labor his hands find to do. That the Nigerian is resilient, you know, and self-reliant.
You mentioned something about family values. This is one of the expectations or the citizens' contract with the country. When you talked about family values, I've always looked at the country as a place that is made up of many families. And from the families, this is where I have a challenge. Every family has a leader. That's the parent. The children will have their different talents, their different hopes and aspirations. Some will be naughty, some will be docile. So you're going to get a mixed bag of children. But the father charts the course of the family. He decides where you're going for holiday. Mommy decides what you're eating for dinner. So there is that clear leadership at the front. And the hope is the family grows up strong with diverse, strengths and so on. So that's how I see the country. And this brings me to my last question. Is it a fair statement to say the onus in what you have reeled out now lies more with the family leaders, that's the parents, than it does with the people? Because the people, you're going to get a mixed bag, but it's up to the parents to put their foot down and say, no, we're headed in this direction.
If we look at it from that lens alone, Camry, we would be losing a lot. Family systems have failed. Not just in our country, but even in some of the countries that you would describe as advanced. The family system has failed and is still failing. People hardly have time for their children these days.
To nurture along those character building lines. Yes.
Yes. And then if you calculate the quantity of time that children spend with parents in relation to the quantity of time that they spend in school, For instance, you will find that children spend far more productive time in school and other environments than they do with the parents. So no segment will be left out. Yes, we will engage with parents. We need to bring back family values, and parents, like you have observed, have a key role to play in this, but it's not going to be left to them alone. Because we live in a context where values are societal, they are cultural.
Yes, sorry to interrupt. Pardon the interruption, Mr. Okoji. My reference to parents was an analogy towards leadership. For example, the president has said something. I would like to see him walk in that talk, and I will beat my green, white, green chest, and I'll stand right behind him if he stands up. So every word of the pledge. You know, we're in a country where the people, we're still a bit upset over expenditure and so on. There's a belief that the chasm between the political elite who are not feeling the pains is very wide from the people who are feeling the pains. So when the elites bring out these words, I think it's important that the people see leadership walking the talk. And I think that's where our greatest challenge has been. But unfortunately, let me just give you half a minute for your closing remarks, Mr. Okoji. Clearly, you and I need to continue this conversation, especially after the launch of the National Values Charter.
Yes. This conversation, we are going to take it to the political elite. So it becomes very clear to them that they also have leadership roles to play. No segment of society will be left out, Camry, because we need to do something to set our nation back on the path of national rebirth. A national orientation is to lead that effort.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the time. At such short notice, you agreed to the interview. We do appreciate it. And once again, Mr. David Okoji is the National Orientation Agency's Director, Special Duties and State Operations. Thanks so much for your time, sir. All right, so that's it for the big story. We'll head on over to the roundtable now, where we will continue this conversation. I would like to hear what you think. Mr. Okoji has given me food for thought regarding what the government's contract is with me in the National Values Charter and what my contract with the government ought to be. We'll get into this when we come back.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.